Hello guys, Expert64 here, and I am here today to play some more Collision. Done a lot of work. So I got a charge port here. I don't really need it anymore because I made the station. I finished it actually quicker than I expected, but I got it done. Just grabbing my jetpack. Got oxygen throughout the station, ready to go. But today, we are working. Need a lot of this. Gonna need some of this. Gonna probably need more of this. And today, we're working on a big reactor. Now, I'm gonna make up a small one of these on camera, and I'm gonna show off the station. Because I'm gonna need to make a lot of these, make a lot of this stuff, and I don't think you guys are gonna watch me make a ton of this stuff on camera. So I'm gonna make a little bit of it. Let's say a little bit, but probably like 4 stacks. I did this backwards. Okay, hold on. I want to get one more stack of iron. Should be good. And graphite and the yellowite. Okay, should be good. We need one of these, so we need more iron. That's another thing I'm going to need a lot of. Gonna need a bunch of these, so we'll make as many as we can. 42 sounds good. Let's get some more iron. I know I'm going to need some diamonds. Put away some of that iron. Come over here. We need at least one controller, which means we need redstone. So let's come over here. We need one of you at least. Actually, we only need one of you. We need a few of you. 32 should be good. We're going to need more casing, which means we're going to need more iron. And we're going to come back over here. We're going to craft some more of this. Okay. Then we're going to need a power tap for at least for now. At least until we upgrade it to the turbine version. Only going to need one of those. We're going to need a reactor access port, which is missing. Reactor access port. I need chest and pistons. Gonna at least need 2 of you. And I'm gonna need chests. So, chests and reactor access port. We got 2 of those. Coolant port we should be good on for right now. I won't need a computer thing yet. And I want one of these if I can make one. I want one of these because this is one of the really important machines that I'm going to need to get to work on instantaneously. What am I missing? Iron and... yeah, iron. So this machine is really important because I'm going to basically be able to take the... so whenever you make a big reactor, it makes a thing called cyanide. And it makes cyanide from the yellowite that we put in it for right now. And when it makes this cyanide, it's originally useful for to make turbines, but if you reprocess it by mixing 2 cyanide and some water, you can create a thing called plutonium, which is even better than yellowite. And then I believe you can also mix some plutonium to make some of this, which is even better for turbines. So I'm going to head quickly up to the station. I'm going to show you this off. Hope you guys are ready to see something cool. Welcome to the station, my good friends. So we have a few things up here that I want to show off. I got this atmospheric detector. It tells me whether the air is breathable. We have a workstation suit. We have a warp controller, which allows us to go to different planets, but we're going to have to make a warp core before we can do that. We have an orientation controller, which we can orientate ourselves. Basically, we can orientate ourselves in any direction we want. I'm going to keep it like this for right now. Might eventually turn it. I have an altitude controller. I can get myself closer or farther away from the Earth. I have a gravity controller, so I can go down to 11. And my jumping Hold on, let me. So like a normal jump, only get a block, give it a little bit, and as it goes down, I will jump higher and higher. Over here, we have my teleporters, which will send me back to the X home. This is how I'm going to get back. This is why I don't need my portal anymore. That and it used up a lot of data. So look how much higher I'm jumping here. Let me jump next to this. I'm nearly jumping 2 blocks now. So I'm going to put this actually back up to 100 because I like max gravity. Now, you might be wondering, how do I get down from here? Also, I think this is really cool because I can see all around. But you might be asking, how do I get down from here and what are those things I see on the edges? Well, those are the bases and that is how we get down there. There are elevators going all throughout the thing. This goes down all the way. I made a giant red tube that circles the entire base and connects us to each one of these. So this one is going to become our factory pylon, which we will eventually put all of our factory stuff. We'll probably eventually fill in this 3rd floor. I just didn't feel like it at the moment. Let's go to that one last. I actually should have started this one. This is going to be holding our storage computer or AE room. It's going to have a lot of storage. It's also going to be able to do some small crafting bits and pieces that we want connected to the main network that aren't going to be crafted over in the machining room, in the machine room. We're going to see that room last because it's what we're doing, because that room is kind of what we're doing today. Then over here, what's the room that I've already edited a little bit and made pretty special, is the farm room. It has lots of glass, very nice, and I'm growing emeralds because I want them for the farms. Now there are three floors of farms that look the exact same, except for the top floor, which has a lot of glass because I wanted it to be very open. And then there's another area that I'm going to put some automation stuff in. Make sure to get all that. Yeah. I do like the fact that the water is kind of just floating down from the ceiling, though. Up one more. There we go. Sorry. Yep, but I breeded emerald seeds, which took a while. I had to go all the way. I basically had to get one red. I had to get the red seed as well as my dandelion, and then I just had to breed those a bunch of times, and then breed what they breeded a bunch of times. Eventually, I got to emerald. I had to go through iron and redstone. So this room is the power room. Inside the power room, the main power we're going to have is a big reactor. Probably going to be a pretty massive reactor, seeing as how big this room is. I mean, this is from... If I remember correctly, this is 41 blocks big. 41 blocks in a circle. 41 blocks. So from that corner to that corner, 41 blocks. So I could easily fit like a 32 by 32 big reactor in here and still have some extra room. Now below this floor, we have an extra floor where I'm going to probably put some machines that are going to be making stuff for making power, such as biodiesel, which I'm going to need a lot of because I'm going to eventually use biodiesel power, and a few other things like water mills or smaller forms of power. Now inside of this room, I do want the biggest power source to be in the dead center. So let me just run here, connect here, and boom. That's the center of the room. And I do want this in the center. I also probably do want this in the ground, but yeah, we want this in the ground, so we're gonna put it in the ground. I will need a faster one of these, so I'm thinking about soon making an atomic disassembler, which is an atomic disassembler, which is an item from Mechanism, which is even better than this pick. I mean, this is a good pick, it works well, but it's a little slow for my tastes. So I'm going to eventually upgrade to that, and fairly soon, seeing as how this is really slow. I mean, it's nothing short of, I mean, it's better than wood, but it is have a fairly slow mining speed, and because we don't have tinkers in our pack, I can't get really speedy ones. Now, granted, I'm kind of glad that we didn't get tinkers, because tinkers is so used in so many mod packs that it's just like, it's understood. So I wanted us to go a little differently, because Mechanism isn't in that many from what I've seen. Most people don't ignore Mechanism and see that it's not useful, because Thermal Expansion, Ender IO, and other mods they fairly tend to do it better. Well, they do it simpler, and people usually stick with that. But the good thing about Mechanism is a thing called the Elite Machines. The Elite Machines can cook, at least in the smelting machine, in the smelting elite factory, can smelt up to 9 items at once with no differentiation. That was English. The only problem is that it does cost a lot of power. But that ain't gonna be a problem for us. Seeing us out, we're making a ton of power. So first things first, I want to make one of these really quickly and show you how it works. Now, this isn't going to be the most efficient thing, but it is going to work. Now, the thing about big reactors is there are 2 forms of big reactors. There's the passively cooled, and then there's the actively cooled, I believe. Or as I like to refer to them, the actual cooled one and the non-cooled one. Because honestly, there's basically just 2 forms. Reactor controller can go right there. Those are going to need for the top. Those are going to be inside. So, when dealing with a reactor generally eats. With the reactor, it kind of works like how any reactor you would think would work. It requires fuel. So the fuel is yellowite. Yellowite is basically the uranium of the big reactor's mod. The only thing with it is it's not that hard to find, but it can be annoying. Now, granted, I know a better way, and also apparently I'm only going to have to be able to do this too tall, which is upsetting. But again, I'm going to make a bigger one off camera. That is going to be pretty massive. It's also going to have glass in it, so we can actually see inside of it when we run in here. This is the main... Oh, you got to be kidding me right now. Okay, it looks like we're not having the centerpiece. Whatever. I don't mind too much. Now, with the reactor control rod, but then we got to passively or actively cooled. Passively cooled reactors really just have liquid. You can have a liquid inside them, but they don't have any active liquid, which means that they're not like making any steam for like turbines. You're just getting power that they're making. Now, with a I believe that's pass. Now with an I might be getting these backwards. I don't truly know what to do because I just always say cooled reactor and non-cooled reactor because that's honestly how they are in my opinion. There you go. We have made a reactor. But with the one that actually does have liquid in it, making a fuel, making steam, it actually as it makes steam, it will use less uranium, will use less yellowite, and it changes that steam, makes into power through turbines, which will then have some form of coil on it, which we're eventually going to use lutecrite. But at the moment, as you saw, the block of lutecrite is quite expensive, being 2 emeralds, emeraldium, blaze rods, and plutonium. Not to mention, or if I want to go this right with the ender pearls and the emeralds, it's going to cost me a nether star. Now, granted, that is fairly expensive, but emeralds I'm already growing, and I can do the mob farm once I have more power, which I'm going to be able to get from this big reactor. Emerald, on the other hand, not so easy, but I can farm them as I showed you, but my farming is slightly inefficient for what I've seen. I can't use bone meal on it, so I have to get a thing called a watering can to grow it super fast. Even though I've 10-10-10'd it, it's still pretty slow. But it's still not that bad. Plus, it gets me nuggets instead of it actually giving me emeralds. It gives me emerald nuggets, which then I have to get 9 of it. But since I only get 4 per turn, that means that I have to wait, and I have to basically harvest it twice for me to even get 1 emerald. So it's not that efficient. And Enderium is fairly expensive in the long run. 2 ender pearls, blazing pyrotheum, which you can make through sulfur, coal, redstone, and blaze powder. Blaze powder you can make through blaze rods, yes, but you can also put redstone into glowstone. Okay. Now that's only one of the items. You also need this thing called Enderium base, which requires tin, silver, and shiny. Shiny, though not, is very hard to find and very good material generally. Granted, in this mod pack, it's not that good, but it's still fairly good material and shiny tin, and it just requires a lot of power to make, and it's very annoying. Not to mention, you need a block of it, so you need a lot of it. Blaze rods aren't that hard. I can make a farm. Plutonium is really the hardest part. With the plutonium, you have to make it. Okay, great. You're not showing me the recipe. Okay. Okay, well, I know the recipe for plutonium. With plutonium, you need this thing, it's called a cyanide reprocessor. Inside the cyanide reprocessor, you put water, you put 2 pieces of cyanide, you give it some power, and out of the green, you get 1 plutonium each, for each 2 cyanide. Now, you can see that we have a fairly good amount of fuel in here. Now, it's not going to use that much up, but it's also going to heat up fairly quick. Core heat means the internal temperature of the reactor. You don't really want this that high. Well, you want it high, but it raises the fuel usage, as you can see. This is the heating of the reactor casing, which is the exterior. And high heat raises energy output and coolant conversion. So, means that we want the casing heat to be as high as we can, but we want the core heat to be as cool as we can. As you can see, we are making a lot of power, but we're using up 26 millibuckets per tick, which isn't that much. We're also making around 8.38 thousand RF per tick, which is pretty good compared to what we were making, which was about 8 RF per tick. And also, when we turn it off, it is going to cool down fairly fast. So I would say that I was running this for maybe 10 minutes? Maybe not even 10 minutes. Maybe a minute maybe? Probably less than that. And we made nearly 8,000. We made nearly, what is that? 8 million RF? So this is clearly a big jump from what we were making. Now, the only problem with this is that the power has to come out of here. The other problem with this is how we're going to transport this power. Yes, I can use the Ender ones, the Ender pipes from Ender.io. Ender conduits will be the best idea, but I would have to wrap them all throughout my base. Conduit. I would have to wrap them all throughout my base, and they're not expensive, but they do cost quite a bit. Now, if I could get into magical crops, it would be great, and I can make this I can make these. Wonder what Dion's up to. Getting back to this. Also, this conduit binding, which causes gravel, sand, and clay, as you've seen me make before. I'd have to wrap it all throughout my base, which would be quite irritating to do, seeing as how I like this flat look. Now, granted, I could hide it into the floors using conduit facade, which is just conduit binding. I would probably use the hardened one, so I would have to make that plus some obsidian, which again isn't that hard for me. Just pulverize it up. So, we don't have to worry too much about power. One thing we do have to worry about though is this room. So this is going to be the AE room. The AE room is going to basically control our AE system. Now, I said that I wanted to do big reactors today, but I also want to explain how the base is going to work. So with AE, there are a few ways. With AE, also referred to as applied energistics, there's a thing called a controller. Now, as you've seen me kind of flip in and out of that small chest in the bottom, you will see that I've gotten some things called these plates. There's engineering calculation. There's engineering calculation, silicon, engineering calculation, and logic. That's what it was. I had to think of them. Sorry. And we could and then this is also something that we're going to need to run throughout the base. Now, that is actually kind of a lie, because I can make a singularity. Singularities, well, I can make a quantum in singularity, which you need 1 singularity and 1 ender pearl dust. Ender pearl dust is not that hard to get. It's just 1 ender pearl inside of a grindstone. Okay. I was checking to make sure that there wasn't like other recipes for breaking down of emeralds. Now, again, not that hard. The only problem with making singularities and needing as many as we are, because we will need at least 4 of them. Because we're going to have to link it from here, over to there, over to there, over to there, and then I want one also in the main base. To do that, we were going to need about 1 million items for each little singularity. Now, luckily, once you explode the singularity, it makes 2 quantum entangled singularities, which means that we're also, since we're going to need singularities, it means that we're going to need the singularity connectors, which are themselves, in a sense, pretty expensive. But still, powering our base is going to become a problem. As I said, is going to become a problem. It's also not going to become a problem at the same time. Getting ender conduits to run through our base is going to be fairly powerful, and we aren't going to be able to export the amounts of power that we're going to need to be exporting. So we're going to need a different cable, which I'll get into making probably sometime next episode as I move more stuff up into the base as I make that big reactor. Because I want this base. This is going to be basically becoming one of the main. This is going to basically become our main base. I don't even know what this does. Oh, this creates power. I didn't even know that. You can tell what I know. Here we are. I just quasi it. We need a quantum and singularity. We're going to need at least one of these quantum chambers, which require flux pearls, which are in themselves not very expensive. Flux is just charged Certus quartz. Just one charged Certus quartz, one nether quartz, and one redstone dust. Not that expensive, but you need 4 of it. You also need this quartz glass, which requires quartz dust and glass. Again, not that expensive. This is where it gets expensive. We need 8 of these. Energy cubes are fairly expensive with flux Certus quartz and quartz glass, as well as needing 2 engineering plates and 2 logic plates, an engineering processor, and ME dense cable. ME dense cable costs glowstone, redstone, and covered ME cable, which requires ME cable with wool, which requires quartz fiber with flux, which requires glass and quartz. That's a lot of stuff. Luckily for us, and to store this information, basically the items will be stored as information and data, we need to make drives. Now, some people refer to stick to 64K drives or even 16K drives, since they store the same amount of number of items, but they store the same. You can store up to that many types of items, but you cannot store that many. I usually prefer to go with a 64K cell. 64K cells are fairly expensive. The cell themselves isn't very expensive. This is the cell itself. This is the component. This requires 316, which require 4Ks, which require. So 164 requires 316. 116 requires 1 4K, which means that for the 316 that we need 9 4Ks. For each one of the 4Ks, we need a 1K storage cell. So that's 9 times 3 again, which is 27. For each one of those, we need a logic circuit, so that's not that bad, but the Certus quartz is the hardest problem because you need to multiply that 27 times 4 times the redstone times the Certus quartz times the logic processor, which becomes a very expensive process to make it. Luckily, I've been using storage stores, which you probably are thinking that this is a problem. It's actually not. There's a great item in AE. Currently this is AE2, called the storage bus. Storage buses can look inside of something, like let's say a chest, can look inside of it and see the amount of items that we have stored. Now, the storage drawers, as you have seen, I've used an item in storage drawers called, as I can remember, called the storage drawer controller. Now, this storage drawer controller can look into all the storage drawers, if you put it down and if you connect the storage drawer to it, it can look into that storage drawer and any storage drawers that are touching the storage drawers that are touching the storage drawer that is touching the controller. So basically, as long as you have a controller, you can look into as many drawers as you want to. See, with this, we can just set up one controller with a bunch of drawers connected to it on one of the walls, and connect it via a storage bus, and the system can look into it. Now, we don't want to put all of our storage into these drawers, because that means that we have to store up a lot of different items. Because we are going to be storing a lot of items, and most of the items we're only going to have 1 or 2 of at a time. Now, for things like minerals and materials that we're going to be using quite a bit, we're going to want inside of the system. We're going to want inside of these drawers because we want it to be able to take out. That's the thing about the storage bus, is it can take in and out of items. Now, the thing is, we want to store a lot of stuff, but to do that, we need storage drives, and by the way, with cables, you can only have up to 8 channels on each cable, which is a problem because that means that we can only store up to 8 drives onto one cable, which connects to the system. It would be a problem, but a very brilliant man by the name of Soren, who who, if you don't know who he is a pretty cool guy, created a thing called a super storage drive. Basically, using interfaces, which also allow you to kind of look into the system, but it kind of acts like a chest. And the storage bus, which can look into chests, created a system that allowed you to set an interface looking into a storage bus looking into an interface that basically you could set up an infinite line of a cable, of two cables with a storage bus on one side, an interface on the other, and drives on each side, filled to the brim, fill it with as many drives as you want, and you can have it, and as long as you can provide it power using quartz cables, which can influence power but not connect the two cables together, as long as the cables aren't flux, you can connect the two cables together, so we have to use colored cable, which again isn't that hard, it's just colors, which just dies, but it can connect them via power, and we can have as many drives of storage as we want, which is a good thing since we're going to need a lot of it. Did you all get that down? Did you all get that? Good, because we're moving on. Now, as I said, I want us to have a lot of power. And we're going to be creating a lot of power. How are we going to move all this power about? All this power, we're going to use something from thermal expansion called the cryostabilized flux ducts. This is a very powerful duct, or flux ducts is basically the same thing as ender energy conductors. Good thing about this one though is, as you saw, transfers redstone flux, but it transfers infinite amounts of RF. It can basically take in as much RF as you want and spit as much of it out as it can, and it needs. As long as the machine can take in infinite amounts. Well, the problem is it requires jelly cryothium. Jelly cryothium is fairly expensive. It requires cryothium dust inside of a magma chamber, which requires niter, which is fairly expensive in and of itself. Sand, I mean, there's not really easy ways to make it. There's gunpowder, but I have to mix probably something. Oh no, just a crusher. Okay. Again, Now, you also need one of these, which requires electrum, hardened glass, which is just obsidian and glass, and lead. Oh, you also can use quartz. That's not that bad. Electrum is just ferrous and iron. Ferrous isn't that hard to get. Actually, no, it's gold and silver. I got that wrong. Electrum is gold and silver. I said that wrong. Making sure. Yep, it's gold and silver. 1 gold, 1 silver equals 2 electrum. You also need one of these redstone energy flux ducts, which require stabilized redstone, about 100 buckets per each, which means that we can use about 2 redstone. And you need one of these, which requires more electrum and hardened glass. So it requires quite a bit of stuff to craft, and we're going to need quite a bit of it. We're also going to have to hide it under all these blocks, which means that we're going to have to need the layer below this. So that's a lot of stuff, and it's going to take a long time to craft. But it also won't, because though I'm going to put the system in here, I can initially set up the system, and I can't link it, but if I want to, I can have ender cables riding along the wall, connected into it, and then I can drag ME cable all the way to the machine room, or temporarily set up the AE system inside the power room, and also set up temporarily inside of the power room, also set up the machines, which can be set to autocraft. And I can set it using the AE system, using interfaces, Ender IO cables, and other machines. I can link all the machines together and have them read to each other until teach the system saying, "Hey, I want you to make me these cryostabilized flux ducts," and just go, "Hey, here you go. Here's the recipes for all this stuff," and send it to craft. By doing that, I can just tell it to craft, I don't know, 100 of it, walk away, since it knows how to craft everything, and it will just craft it. There you go. Now I have crafted about 100. Then, afterward, I can craft 100. I can craft 100 to as many as I want, and I can eventually wrap it around my station. Granted, this is going to take quite a bit of time, but we can do it. Also, getting power to the plant area isn't going to be that hard, but it's also not going to need that much power. I can probably just set up a dimensional transceiver over here. The only problem is I'm going to need to pump items. That also won't be a problem, since I can just put ME conduit, cover it up, or put glass on it, and then just have it run through the walls. Over there. That's the only area where there's not glass. Have it run down to the bottom. And then down here, I'm probably going to put a linker, as I said, a quantum interface, which is going to have, there are going to be a bunch of assemblers down here. Since I don't want nuggets going to the system, I only want ingots and certain resources. I'll probably have a chest going into an assembler, and the assembler crafting the items into ingots and nuggets, going from nuggets to ingots and resources and ores or whatever, having them all be produced here, and if anything creates an ore, I can then also set up the pulverizing down here, which will require power, which means that we will probably put a dimensional transceiver down here for, or something else that can transfer power. Maybe a tesseract, which is from thermal expansion, which we can set up down here to craft. So that way, when it goes into the system, which we'll have a test using an import bus. Yes, using an import bus, you just pull that stuff out of the system. Then the system will never have to worry about nuggets. It will only be getting the ingots and emeralds and diamonds and whatever we get, whatever we're doing. Redstone will just go in how it is. Maybe doing blocks, but still, that's quite a bit of stuff and it's gonna take a while. Now, luckily, this is something that I want to take a while, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, I know I just flooded you guys with a ton of information, but that's okay, because the episode is now over. I just packed in everything that I wanted to show you into 30 minutes. Ish, because I still have to say goodbye. I want to show you one last thing, and that's this room. I love this room. I'm just, walking casually on air. I'm going to make this probably into some sort of cafe. This is just something that is going to be part of the station. I want this to be a cafe, and I think it's so cool that I can look down and just look at the earth. Now, if I raise the altitude, I can actually see the earth better from down here. But still, system is set up. We're gonna probably get some more stuff up here. I do eventually, though I have a crafting table up here now, I do want to have a link to the AE system up here, which again which will mean that we need another thing. I also want to get a warp core, and I want to get that soon, but that's also it's not really that expensive. I could probably make it next episode, but I also want to get to moving up machines, which I'll probably do off screen. Since most of the machines aren't really automated, I'll just probably leave them downstairs for now, and as they move up, they'll become more automated. And since the first thing I've automated was ores, I need that to still be powered, so I'll probably keep that down on the real world. Okay. And now we're back. Hope you guys have enjoyed this little video. Thank you all. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I will be back next time. Oh, I don't know if I said this or not, but we got this machine working. I was very mad. I need this to work because and just to give you a little more information, oh dear. We need the lithium crystals to run my warp core. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this information-flooded episode of Collision. Hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll see you on next time when I have a giant reactor. Bye, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye.